So, BYU fans, we need to talk specifically about your reactions to my last BYU related cup burning video. And so this one's going to be more serious. Now, while the original video did not actually have a whole lot of comments, I think it's actually 0. Reactions in real life and on Twitter since kind of made it necessary to have this discussion. Now, if I find any of the original tweets I mention in here, I'll put them up on screen, but if I don't, find them for whatever reason, like people block me or delete them or whatever, they don't get up. So, apologies if that happens. Now, we're going to start with the sports-related issue, but generally go into more serious stuff. Now, in times since the BYU Cup video, an argument from authority was used to negate my retelling of his and I road trip down to BYU. The bad experience is that by saying things like BYU people are nice and you couldn't have got that treatment because BYU people were. What do you have to say to that?
BYU people being nice?
Well, yeah. Well,
they're not. They claim on social media all the time about being the nicest place. Well, they themselves say that other people have said that they are. But in reality, they are the most rude and arrogant, benevolent above all other people, looking down upon type of thing you'll ever meet. And this is coming from fans of a team that has played University of Idaho every other year for a long time.
Yeah.
So, that's quite an accomplishment, BYU. It'll be probably well known later, we are LDS, and even at church. We go to church, and no, BYU's got to be brought up, and it has to be recognized as the superior team, no matter what, which is a problem, huge problem. They're horrible people. And, we kept getting yelled at, they hate Boise State while we were there.
Well, we'll briefly cover that. It has been suggested that the last video, the BYU Cup burn video, was sour grapes, essentially, because of loss. And, well, that's not entirely true. Now, the thing that we refer to sometimes as success and honor, reference to the fight song where we do not leave a BSU game, whether it's basketball, football, or I think even rugby once. A few times. Where we do not leave early, home or away, win or lose. We don't. So if we're not leaving because of loss, why would any of that be sour grapes? I mean, really. Go back to that video. Because I do actually negate that in the video. It's about 19 minutes in. Yeah, 19 minutes in. So no, it's totally not sour grapes, especially because of that.
The Air Force game, the first one that Harsin played against, it was getting really bad. He or I didn't want to leave yet. It was getting really bad. We did not leave yet.
We didn't? No, we didn't.
We're Boise State, and we're not new to having a season where people lose.
Yeah.
We used to not be that great. High school, junior high, in my years, graduated in 1996. And it was not great. It was just a gamble to see if we would beat a team like the Vandals. So it's not sour grapes, it's how you win. When BYU loses, you go and look on how they are. And they spread. Church is supposed to be a time where you worship, whatever religion you are. Have a good time and to feel whatever spirit you believe in. And nope, win or lose, you'll get a bad attitude from the BYU people during football season. And this is not in Utah, by the way.
Right. To more drive home the point of the last video, and I guess this one, is that there was not a single lie or distortion of piece of bias anywhere in that video. It was all the truth. In fact, I can personally certify that, if there are any facts mentioned in that video, that they are true facts. It's not like I'm making up my own facts or anything like that. Everything in that video is true. I guess we should start talking about the trip that I recount last time, because 2 viewpoints is better than 1, really.
Do you like both trips, or are we doing just the latest one?
I guess just the latest one, because that one was the more egregious one, but I guess the stares that we got when we got in, at Lavelle Edwards Stadium there, as if we shouldn't have even been there.
Putting aside trying to navigate the state of Utah past a certain city, I forgot what city that was.
I think it was Far West.
Yeah, past Far West. I guess we're just going to Lavelle Edwards Stadium. Yeah. I don't know if this is the time to say that, but when I went up there, and my phone yelled at me. I noticed they had a new sponsor on the BYU Stadium.
Yeah.
That's later. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, like, what's the problem? Like, why is there such a problem with BYU fans and fans from other teams coming? I do not understand, especially if these people are supposed to be upstanding LDS members. You know, what is the problem with visiting fans?
Can I talk about the shirt and tie thing? Or?
Yeah, let's not go.
Well, okay, the problem that fans have against visiting teams along with that. To preface this is the guy, you know, they call him Orange Jacket Guy. He wears he found an orange jacket at a Deseret Industries.
I'll put in a photo later.
And, you know, orange suit jacket, blue shirt, and a tie of mixed BSU colors usually. I was not allowed to bring my deal. You know, it's a blue and orange Fett costume. Whether it's Jango Fett or Boba Fett, it's just kind of a mix. So call him Bronco Fett. My costume apparently wasn't allowed in the stadium. Even though, you know, it was because of the helmet, they said. Even though in the student section, tons of superhero-themed people wearing Captain America and other. Mm-hmm. You know, it was, we'll go into it later, but one other point of getting as much BSU fandom out of there because they did not want them there, and we'll deep into that. But because of that, I couldn't wear it. So I wore an orange shirt with a blue tie to match up with them. And I had in the car my bike helmet because I have it in my car lot. And that's the car we used to drive here. So I wore it because it had Boise State on it. You BYU fans gave me so much crap. I mean, they seemed like they were offended because I wore a shirt and tie to it. I mean, I was just matching my dang brother, and he wears that at every game.
I think I'll bring up the photo of us.
Yeah. I mean, how much of a jerk can you get doing that? It's just... Anyway, so... Yeah, the fans are not nice. Yeah. And they are quick to take offense. I believe that term may be familiar to most of the BYU people in some scriptures you might read. Quick to take offense. I believe you're not supposed to do that, though. You gonna say something?
No, but... Welcome back from the edit. Okay, so moving on then is that some specific users, and again, if I find the tweets, I'll put them up on Twitter, tried to say that the what I think I referenced it as the injury tradition. You know, and this is a thing that has definitely happened, and originally it was actually a very classy move, where BYU players, you know, the ones that are actually on the field, would kneel or do whatever was convenient.
I remember seeing it all the time on any game I'd see on television. Yeah, where
they would kneel whenever there was an injury for either one of their own or some of the opposing team. Specific people on Twitter were trying to say that BYU never did this. Now, I don't know exactly what motivation you would have for trying to assert this, but it's kind of bad to try to even say that. And this, you know, and that's about the point where I became certain and learned that a lot of BYU fans will lie in an attempt to save face. Now, that's definitely against church doctrine. I mean, that's one of the 10 Commandments, and also some other stuff about specifically saving face.
Besides that, BYU people try to put themselves off as being the most helpful and honest people, well, you know, ever. Which is... as we can prove, isn't the case. You go on Twitter mainly. Facebook, yeah, they try to hide it so much, mainly because their moms are watching. But Twitter, they will put up reviews of Deadpool, curse, and swear when it comes to any kind of sports. They're totally hypocritical, the BYU people, compared to the way they say they all act like.
Now, the what was the phrase you just used? The helpful and whatever, or something in helpful, or
helpful? Oh.
Yeah, because that definitely runs into the next point here on the outline here, where Blue Thunder was definitely being played over by the Lavelle Edwards Stadium PA system.
That made me so upset.
Yeah, and that. And y'all are trying to say that, you know, that also didn't happen. Well, I was there. It totally happened. Like I said before, I can certify everything I said in the last video happened. And, you know, we're not the only ones that know about that either. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty damning lie to start putting out there.
I think it's mainly because they're weak sauce band. We heard them and they weren't that loud.
I know, and a lot of their marching band stuff was more close quarter turning than actual marching band stuff. But yeah, well, we don't need to insult them to make ourselves feel better, unlike BYU fans. Which being there in the stadium, that kind of brings up the whole thing. Like the new skin thing. Like, what's that about?
Okay, yeah. So your sponsor is now New Skin. You do realize what it is, what they do, and mainly their reputation is not undeserved. We all know what it is, and I guess for those who may not be LDS, I really don't want to exclude you out because I'm not from Utah. I will just say that New Skin is, because in short, it would be a pyramid program. There's a lot of those in Utah where they kind of use their membership in the church, in the, I'll say the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And from here on, I'll just say the LDS Church, because it's shorter for time. One person in the LDS Church will find a friend, to help sell for New Skin. And those people will find two friends, and so on and so on. So you can see that there's a pyramid going on, like you've heard of many times before. But they use their church membership. Go into explanation later, you can go and look it up or ask someone who's LDS about what home teaching and what visiting teaching is, and they basically use that. Everyone knows it. It's one of those Utah pyramid schemes that are just prevalent everywhere. Either way,
it's a scam.
That's the sponsor for their football stadium.
That is not representing the LDS Church very well.
It made me just flat out laugh once we got close enough. Oh, they changed their sponsorship. Holy crap. It's New Skin.
Yeah.
Oh, go watch the movie VRM. It's in
there. Yeah.
Oh, man. I love those movies because they just take digs at Utah culture. But, yeah, New Skin. Really? You couldn't get anything better? I mean, you're claiming all these huge sponsorships and everything all the time. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm perfectly, comfortable with Lavelle Edwards Stadium receiving sponsorship, especially if it's for the furtherance of an athletics program. But New Skin, that's a known scam.
Yeah, why not Sensi or Melaleuca?
Yeah. So, yeah, well, I think we've made our point on that.
Yeah.
Now, while I believe I said as much in the video, I do feel I need to reiterate that a lot of BYU fans at the stadium were definitely cheering on for the injuring BSU players. Now, to put it simply, I was there, you random internet BYU fans were not. I can speak from authority on the matter. You were in some random Utah suburban living room at the time of the game.
Two witnesses.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we could wrangle up a third if you want to go that direction. Now,
2 or 3 witnesses, what you pick.
Yeah,
2 or 3 witnesses.
Yeah, just let's see. That game was on ESPN, right? So you were watching ESPN. We were at the game. So we can definitely say, it happened. Now,
they probably would have rather they're holier than thou network, but
yeah. Now the reason why I'm reiterating this again is because such actions by fans are definitely the lowest of the low. And if that needs to be explained to you, you're already far gone then, yeah. So, and that kind of goes into the next point here, is that some on Twitter tried to say that Mormons don't try to hurt people. Mormons don't try to hurt people.
Well, maybe Mormons don't, but people who are good representatives of the LDS Church try not to be.
Yeah, and I can say that those present on the field and in the stands definitely did. Either they injured somebody or they tried to.
I would just like to insert, if you don't recognize the names I'm about to mention, go and research them and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Most BYU fans try to pretend like they're Donny Osmond, but really they're Bo Greitz.
I love the reference there, yeah.
Yeah, go look up Bo Greitz, another LDS person. Not every BYU, in fact, 90% of most BYU people are not a Donny Osmond.
Yeah, and that's kind of, and a lot of that is kind of indicative as to why the next point happened, is that to this date, no substantive punishment has been dished out for the nut punching or any of the other dirty stuff. Now, y'all know what I'm talking about when I say dirty stuff.
No apology either.
Yeah, no, well, barely. Sometimes it's a non-apology, but I like
no apology from the player to the other player.
Right, and now you all know what we're referring to. That's the thing, though, is that it's happening. Now, whatever cognitive dissonance you want to try to engage in, where you try to deny it happened, or you're even denying to other people that they're that the BYU's dirty, that stuff never happened. No, BYU athletics is known for being dirty now, especially in the last few years.
This past football season, with the 15 season, the end of 2015 season. Mm-hmm. You think the Boise State game was the only thing they did?
Yeah.
Before even the Boise State game, go look at all things on the hashtag for Thug Mormon before the Boise State game.
Yeah, the Nebraska one and the Memphis one. Yeah.
Well, Memphis one was technically the other season, but that was they hardly did much punishment with that because the guys were playing later.
Yeah, you start a fight on national TV and none of you get punishment for it.
Utah State Aggies.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's a few others. There was also that basketball game.
Yeah, he just goes in and
it was a haymaker. Yeah.
Like what?
That wasn't could be construed as anything else other than my arm is balled up, or the fist is balled up, and my arm is heading towards your face.
I really loved it when somebody like the Utah DL Vilaseni Faluanaku, I think I'm saying that wrong. He called it out right before the Las Vegas Bowl. And the thing is, y'all know what he was talking about.
I want to high five that guy.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody like that has to call you out, and right before a big game, no less, it should be pretty obvious that you need to not be dirty at a big game. But here's one of the opposing players calling you out on exactly that.
You gonna deny it then too?
Are you gonna deny it then?
You've been dirty with that team forever.
Yeah, don't start nothing. There won't be nothing. And the thing is that if Utah BYU fans are Utah area BYU fans, I should say, to avoid confusion. If you're wondering why we're so upset about this, it's kind of a universally accepted thing that most teams and their fans are actually very respectful when an injury happens, and most are more or less respectful to each other. I mean, yeah, sure, there's rivalry stuff, and people jaw jack back and forth and whatnot. That there is that kind of stuff, but not BYU level stuff. Like you realize that y'all have set yourself apart and not in a good way. And and it has been said that my recounting in the video is also wrong and flawed, because football and the other BYU sports are allegedly not overly LDS centric. Not over. Yeah. That was the phrase. I remember it. Yeah, I remember seeing it on my phone. I was out and about somewhere. I was trying to get something done, and also while having this Twitter argument, and somebody comes up with the phrase not overly LDS centric. Now, okay, so the game happens on land set apart by I think it was it was set apart by general authorities.
Well, the campuses.
Yeah, the campus.
Basically, authorities, people of authority in our church, for those who aren't LDS, they have what we call the priesthood and their authority, and they set it apart, as it were, and so BYU people seem to think, that means we are the church, which we'll get into representing the church later.
Right. Now, they're trying to say that it's not overly centric, and it happened on a field which, was set apart in such a manner. The game had an invocation, and I'm guessing, from the way that they announced such a thing, is that it had an invocation by a local member. Yeah, that argument flies right out the window when you try to play that.
BYU fans, don't think we didn't see what most of your student section was doing during that prayer. So,
yeah.
We weren't rude enough to be taking pictures during that, but if you really want proof, then we will do that next time.
Well, we're never going to Provo, but...
No,
yeah,
well, we're never going to Provo again because it's a horrible town, horrible drivers, but we'll find a way. We'll get someone to do it.
And that runs into the next bullet point, is that you told me to mention the military uniform thing.
So during that game, I don't know if you do it every game, but you were honoring the military, which is fine. I was actually in the Army, 95 to 2004. Yeah, I might be off on the years. That's it. But, so they brought some out and honored them. Instead of talking about the military accomplishments, which basically they stated what branch of the service they were in. And then, I'm not sure why, but they talked about all his different church LDS service. And, you know, he was a bishop. He sent 3 kids on missions. He was a sealer in the temple.
Yeah.
Yada, yada, yada. I'm like...
Why do sealing powers need to be mentioned at a football game?
Yeah, well, why do you need to mention any of his church service? We're talking about a military guy. You're honoring the military guy. I think there was like 2 or 3.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, really? You are so into yourselves. I'll just be real quick, insert this. There's BYU people all abundant here, obviously, because one BYU person moves there and then they convince everyone else, teach your kids to go to BYU because that's a good LDS person. But most of your explanations when I've talked to you guys about your move to independence and, you know, to get your own network and stuff, your explanation is, I mean, a lot of you might know it, and many other people have backed it up, saying your reason is because you are the church and your message of BYU needs to go far and wide. Basically, you are the church and you are representing them and you need your own network because in any LDS person from Utah, they don't like mixing with what they call them. Look this up. Non-members. They call them non-members. You know, people that aren't LDS. In Utah, they don't let them. It's a Utah culture, not LDS culture. They don't let them be friends with them usually. They don't let them date them or do anything associated with someone who isn't LDS. And I'm pretty sure that's the reason why BYU got out of the Mountain West, because they had an opportunity and they didn't want to mix around with any non-member teams.
Yeah. So to say that BYU stuff is not overly LDS-centric is, well, a bald-faced lie.
BYU is not the LDS church.
I mean, it's Exodus chapter 20. I mean, come on. Now, a lot of that goes well with the next point, which is BYU and BYU fans pretending to bear the mantle of representing the LDS faith. Well, let's see how do we explain this one?
Well, they think they are the LDS faith.
Yeah.
They actually think they are that. They think they're the same thing as currently Thomas S. Monson going to Thailand. They think it's the same, you know, because the LDS faith, there's a thing called firesides where the bishop, he's like a pastor, or someone that he gets together will have, they call it fireside, and they go in and they get all the youth and they talk, you know, about subjects. Different thing, being good, believing in Heavenly Father and all that. Which is a great thing to do. Many pastors have things like that. Mm-hmm. But, do you realize that when BYU football, only football, comes to town, they have a fireside for them? I mean, the football team thinks they are on the same authority level. They are nothing more than just other members. But when they come to town, the church has to make a fireside for them so they can come and talk. We're basically worshiping football players at this point from a team that isn't the church, but they claim to be. So BYU football player, or BYU as a whole, thinks that they are so important and full of themselves, thinking they are somehow a branch, authority-wise, of the LDS church, that every city they visit for football has to have a fireside for them. I don't believe Brother, what's his name, was ever invited, the football player.
Which one are you talking
Darren,
about?
Well, he'll put the term on there later. But there's a football player that's was in our parents' ward till
you're talking about Darren Lee from okay.
Darren Lee, and by the way, all the team captains for that game were LDS and returned missionaries actually. So yeah, Brother Lee and all those other guys were not invited. to that fireside. It's just more BYU being full of themselves.
Yeah, and if and it kind of flies in the face of several bits of LDS doctrine to hold a fireside just for BYU, using other church facilities that are not actually a part of BYU for specifically an exclusive BYU purposes. That is wrong on a few different levels. Now, before we get too far off track, one of the last things that I want to mention specifically from the last video was, that one right there, the sign, one of our signs was completely ripped out of your hands, while they were taunting you, while we were trying to leave. Now, I gloss over this bit. I do reference it, and say, it was only $1 or something, and we just move on. But you were the actual person involved. Why don't you retell it for a second?
One more person was giving me crap for the shirt and tie thing, which I'm still miffed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm LDS. I'm not mocking the church. They were saying something about mocking the church. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so I had the sign, and seriously, one person just ripped it out of my hands, and everyone else around there cheered for it, and they crowd surfed the sign, ripping it in pieces as he went. I mean, seriously? That's your good-natured fans making sure the opposing people had a good time?
Mm-hmm.
You're supposedly nice. This happened. There are tons of people around there that saw that. What section were we in?
It was section 129. It was the northeast corner.
Okay. If you were in section around 129 and the other section across the aisle from that, during that game, you probably saw what was going on. Okay? They ripped it out of my hands, cheered for it. You guys were being overly aggressive jerks. I don't know if we're going to talk about the inebriated guy later.
Well,
but I'll just say, you fans are not nice. Not very welcoming.
I didn't say it specifically in the video, but we, as far as what we allege him to have been, but
he smelt of alcohol. There's no other smell like that.
Well, I did mention our troubles with him as we were trying to get to the gate.
Okay, so we.
But but since that particular encounter wasn't actually disputed or negated or talked about in anything since, we'll go back over that now. But that does, however, go well with the next point, that we have on this outline here, is that behaviors are, we mention BYU, behaviors and whatnot, because LDS members are held to a higher standard. Not only that, but not every fan base acts like BYU's,
If you claim to represent the LDS faith,
mm-hmm.
whether you complain later on all the social media like you do, you're holding us to a different standard. You're representing my church, okay? That's my church too. Not just the church of BYU, but the church of the whole world where everyone believes the same as you and in those same doctrines. It's a worldwide church. And so, you're going to have to hold yourself to a higher standard and not act like these other non-members, as you call them, okay? Knock it off.
Well, and I guess we wanted to mention this specifically. Elders in Provo, mentioning that they're from Zion.
Well, okay. I served at LDS Mission from 1998 to 2000, and in the MTC a lot, as well as out in the mission field. I myself went to California Riverside, and all the elders that were from Utah said they are from Zion. Which, this is totally in LDS doctrine, or folklore mostly, but doctrine also, about the term Zion. Now, it references, that part in the Bible, those people that were so well, that they, Anyway, Zion is defined by our church, where the saints are. So when you use that term, saying you're from Zion, all your missionaries from there do it. It wasn't just in my mission. It's not just Utah. I mean, it could be said, if you're from a certain part of Missouri, you could say you're from Zion because there is that. But I knew an Elder John's from Missouri there, and he actually never did that. You are not from Zion. When you say you're from Zion, you're saying the rest of us aren't. We are all from Zion because we're all the saints. The church is where the saints are. The Zion is where we were at the time as missionaries. All right, you are not from Zion. We are all from Zion.
So, going over the video, and this is kind of why I was getting at earlier with you, going over what we've already discussed in this video, as LDS people, we believe in being honest,
Yeah.
true, nope. Chaste. Well, there are some suggestive things.
Yeah, we're going to go into that certain rape case later.
Yeah, we'll get to there. Benevolent. No,
well, you have that in spades. You have the self notion of being benevolent. We'll give you that.
Virtuous. Have you seen those cheerleaders? And we believe in doing good to all men.
No.
It's very clear that that's not. And indeed, we may say that we follow the admonition of Paul. We believe all things. We hope all things. We
have endured many things.
We have endured many things. If there is anything virtuous, lovely, or good report, or praiseworthy, we seek after these things. Now,
so then why is New Skin your sponsor?
Yeah, no kidding. So it's almost like BYU is trying to fly in the face of everything the LDS faith believes.
And yet you want to represent it, saying all the time, you are the church.
You are the church. You have to, you have to like BYU if you're LDS. You try to pretend that, you are all carrying the mantle of representing the LDS faith. And here you are, and you know exactly what I was just quoting, by the way. If you're LDS, you know exactly what I was just quoting. And why that's such a damning thing. Now, is it any wonder that BYU has been so corrupt and inept with, a certain recent rape case? Now, I'll put in relevant links later, probably in the description, but, this is where we see a bad situation with BYU on the outside, and then this is all turned on its head, and apparently it is all much worse. It is much worse and on a deeper level. So, people that are not even involved in BYU athletics, it turns out they're doing some very, very serious and egregious things. I'll recap it. I'll try to recap it briefly here, where there was an alleged rape, and the poor woman who was the victim went to they told BYU admins about it, however it's supposed to happen over there, and instead of what is supposed to happen both within doctrine and procedurally and within the law, the BYU administration decides to just kick this woman out of the school.
They do honor code crap first before figuring the rape out. And I got some stuff to go on later, but go ahead.
We'll get to that very shortly. And not only that, but very little has happened to the perpetrator in this, because the perpetrator was able to bring the police report of what happened, and somehow turn that into some honor code violations. Now, to those who are watching, the honor code is at BYU is more or less codified living standards that you are definitely supposed to be upholding, and this was an honor code violation, is a voting, and it was a honor code violation against that, that woman. Instead of the dude who by now it's actually pretty obvious he perpetrated the rape.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Why did they go honor code first? Figure out the rape, figure out everything, go through due process, do all that, and then figure out what the honor code violation was.
That may be partially solved by what apparently happened next. The dude came to them with the police report and whatnot, but apparently the honor code office already had such information, and this is a problem on a few different levels, including a legal level here. Where why did some arbitrary admin office in BYU have access to police records? And there is not a good answer to this. Now, we do know how it happened, where apparently the campus security people, they're actually a police force, and so they have access to, police records of, Provo or something, and by their own volition volunteered such records not records, but volunteered the actual access to the honor code office, and apparently this is a pretty normal and usual thing to happen there, where the BYU administration is illegally looking at police records and and having unfettered access to such things. Now, why is a school that is supposed to be representing the LDS faith acting like this? And we have a duty and obligation to obey the laws of the land. Why so now we're upset at a much deeper level, and we're puzzled why nothing has happened to administrators at BYU. The BYU has something like over 2,000 full-time and part-time administrators in all of this. And why?
Well,
why?
Okay, why? They did all they needed to do, but why did they go, let's find out the honor code first. Let's see if she's broken any rules first. Figure things out, figure out the rape, if it happened or not. Talk to all the people, get everything finished, and then figure out honor code crap. No, you have to go that first. Oh, well, she did this kind of act. Let's see if the woman did anything wrong first.
Yeah, that totally flies in the face of a lot of what the church teaches.
I mean, I have some experience with that. Can I touch on that?
Well, please do, please.
Well, okay, on my mission, I've ran into two situations like this. And when a rape has happened, like the rape has actually happened where it was a rape and it wasn't consensual, every time the church will stand with the woman. The church, as I am referring to the LDS church. Sometimes I slip up like that because there's way too many Utah people in the Park Center ward. Every time, it is never the wrongdoing of the woman if a rape happened. You can go to church policy, okay? She can still go to the temple. She can still partake of the sacrament. She can still get baptized, because one of those situations, kind of two of them, where the interviewer interviewed the lady and she was feeling guilty about it, because that's a horrible experience and there is guilt. She was feeling guilty about she might not be worthy or whatever. Yeah, she did nothing wrong, so yeah, she was worthy. Do not ever assume that because that kind of act happened, a sexual act happened, does not mean an automatic honor code violation. Alright? There are things and there are limits that I believe in too, that basically the honor code is basically live an LDS life. Okay?
Yeah.
Is it against LDS life to be raped?
Yeah.
It wasn't the woman's fault. It was the perpetrator of the rape who is at fault. Okay? You guys did nothing to the dude. Right? He was the one that did that kind of act on his own volition. She did not. Alright?
Yeah, and why are we concerned if four were on the floor when Yeah, when a rape has been a rape has been alleged? Yeah, why are we more concerned about an honor code violation versus something a violent violation of the law? Why are we more concerned there? And the thing is that nobody with knowledge of that case can really answer that, because you can't answer that from a legal standpoint. You can't answer it from a moral standpoint. You can't answer it from a doctrinal standpoint. You can't answer it from a dogma standpoint. I mean, this is a straight up medieval type thinking where the woman must have been wrong, and we're going to work at it from that angle. In Western society, let's just broaden it to Western society. We evolved past this centuries ago. Why?
Yeah.
Why is this happening? And nobody's answering.
This isn't medieval Britain or ancient Rome where it's half the woman's fault.
Yeah, no kidding.
Look at what the Romans did to certain religious figures. Do we really want to be modeling ourselves after them?
No kidding. No kidding. I mean, so
we've probably gone on that a whole bunch. Is there any more points with that?
Well, no, not really, other than our promise to never return to Provo.
Okay, one more thing is that at the end, they're harassing us and all that, and we got off the bus, and by the way, talked with fellow Bronco fans saying they were not treated very well either. Mm-hmm. So not just one experience. It was two experiences because 2 years ago, before that. So we gassed up, and I believe the term is ox in the mire. Had to get something to eat because I was hungry, and we were just I had the elders quorum lesson the next day, so we just decided to drive that night because we do that a lot. I got no problem with it. I probably won't do that again because I get real tired. Either way, went into the Walmart to go and eat. With honor codes and just general advisements in the church, you know, don't shop on Sunday. We had to get something. It was immediate, and there is allowance in the scriptures. It's called the oxes in the mire, which basically it had to happen. It needed to happen for us to function. So we got some food and some juice at the Walmart.
The yellow, it was the Walmart on, it was actually in Orem.
Orem, yeah. So we were there, and all these people with BYU shirts were shopping, doing their grocery shopping then. This was technically on Sunday now, because the game came out close to midnight.
Well past midnight, yeah.
And honor code and everything, all these BYU people shopping on Sunday. Were you driving home and had to get some food or whatever? By the way, some of you had your kids still up at that time in Walmart shopping around, and babies. Your double standards are just totally ridiculous now. If you're going to hold yourself to a standard, then follow it. Then you might be able to claim that you're better than everyone, but you still shouldn't. You know, there's the term rammy-umptum again. It was in the last video, but I'll use it again. It was used by certain people that thought they were the only chosen of God, and they thanked God every day that they were better than everyone else. And they got up on the rammy-umptum and did that. And you have your own rammy-umptum now, BYU. You guys are full of yourselves.
So, because of all this, you know, our promise to never return to Provo remains unchanged.
We'll go straight through going to southern Utah because St. George is pretty nice.
Yeah, and due to more serious and egregious events, our promise is even more strong now. That's really how we feel, and that's why we had to talk today, is because, well, this is the situation. These are the things that happened. And these are the things that are happening. Who's really following LDS doctrine here?
Yeah, you don't say you're better than someone else. We're just saying you yourself are representing the church. You're saying you're all this and that. We'll start being it.
We'll leave the video there because it's probably well over 40 minutes now. You really think about this, and then after, you know, and if you feel you need to comment on this or tweet at me personally or find out my personal email address and email me at 3 a.m., you know, if you want to be doing any of those things, really ponder what we've said in the video first.
If you are really BYU fan and representing the church, as you call it, think about that.
Yeah.
The next time you act on Twitter or comment on YouTube, people are watching. People not like us that aren't LDS are watching you. So knock it off.
So, we'll see you guys later then.